On this episode of Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien. Under the dome, despite the public health crisis, Tuesday's election remains on. Outside the bubble, the DNC makes major changes to their Milwaukee convention. All of this and new polling numbers as Battleground Wisconsin starts now.
Welcome to Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien. I'm Jessie Opoien, opinion editor at the Cap Times, and my co-host is Brian Fraley, president of Edge Messaging. Hey Brian, how's it going?
Good to see you, Jessie. I hope you're doing well.
You too. I'm hanging in there, surviving another week of social distancing.
Good. Well, big news this morning. The DNC announced that they're moving their convention.
Yeah, I guess this was not unexpected, but still pretty big. We're looking at just a full month delay. You know, it was going to be the week of July 16th, which is my birthday. I was really looking forward to celebrating with a lot of work, but we will be having the week of August 17th now, and it sounds like they're working with the hotels and the venues in Milwaukee to get this into place. And I guess I'm wondering, are we going to see another delay? Is August even going to be enough of a delay? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I wonder the size and scope of the event and how drastically it'll change. I don't think we're going to be seeing 50,000 people from all over the country flying into Milwaukee. They may radically scale it down. They may be doing some virtual events. I think it's a shame, right? The Fiserv Forum was supposed to be host to the NBA Finals this year and this, and it might, both of them are kind of up in the air.
Yeah, there's so many factors. People aren't going to have probably the disposable income to travel for this. They're going to be worried about getting in these large crowds. We're still going to be dealing with the long residual effects of social distancing and how we combat coronavirus. And it's a huge bummer. This was a lot of really big stuff for the city of Milwaukee and really for the whole state of Wisconsin. And it's a bummer to see that diminished.
It really is. It really is. And let's take a look at the latest coronavirus numbers here. This is from the latest state update today and local reporters who have called medical examiners around the state. 1,730 cases, 461 hospitalizations, and 36 deaths. The numbers keep going up. We have not flattened the curve yet, and everyone is warning us that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
And I think we can see that from every other state that's ahead of us on this. We are far from out of the woods. And despite that, and despite the fact that people are nervous about going to the polls, despite the fact that the Elections Commission says that municipalities are down thousands of poll workers, we are still apparently going to have an election on April 7th.
And it's inconceivable to me. Okay, we are in the middle of a public health emergency. And on Tuesday, we're going to tell people, well, we've been telling you to keep your distance, and we've been telling you to only go out for the essentials. And if you are an essential worker, we want you to stay home and not leave your house. And if you're students, don't go to school. But now we're going to, even though there's 7,000 poll workers short, and they're going to have to staff it with the National Guard. What they don't understand is how ridiculous they're going to look to the nation. Could you imagine the cable news channels? And believe it or not, there was an election tonight. Let's go look at the returns from Wisconsin. It's a lack of leadership on everybody's part, and everybody looks bad. But I don't care about everybody looking bad. People are going to put their health at risk, both the poll workers and the people who go vote.
I'm with you 100% on this. And yeah, we're already becoming, I don't know if we're quite at laughingstock status, but just people shaking their heads and puzzling, how is this happening? I think Politico's run 2 articles, Vox is running articles. Everyone's just, the topic du jour right now is how is Wisconsin possibly going to hold an election during all of this? And I think you're
Governor
right
Evers
about,
comes out.
It's a failure at every level.
Governor Evers comes out and says, I wish we would have postponed it. The Republicans say, you never brought that up before. So it is a failure on every level. I just wish they would get their heads together. I can't believe I was hoping for an activist court, but I was kind of hoping for a court to delay it for 2 months.
I think that was the last option, right? I think we were all kind of hoping for that because it's clear that we've talked about this before. We have absolutely seen more bipartisan cooperation and more, I think, like putting the needs of the public ahead of the blame game on most things, but we have not seen that on the election here. We're seeing it, I really think, coming from both sides, and a court would have been our last option, and here we are.
It's crazy. You know, people say, oh, well, democracy must continue. Well, this isn't a discontinuation of democracy. On 9/11, when the towers were attacked, it was actually an election day in New York City. And they postponed it because there was a public health crisis. And they needed first responders and the National Guard to do something other than man the polls. And it's the same damn thing on Tuesday. So they're going to take limited PPE equipment, and are they going to have poll workers in gowns and masks that should be used by first responders or frontline healthcare workers on Tuesday? I mean, it is ridiculous. It's not only irresponsible, it's absolutely ridiculous, and shame on the lot of them. All right, so now's the time where we talk about what are we watching out for. So what are you looking for?
Well, you know, I was going to talk about the Marquette poll, which I think we can still do, but in the time that we've just been processing what we were going to talk about today, we've learned some pretty big news in the state legislature. A lot of high-profile retirements coming from Democrats in the last week or so. Obviously, you know, Fred Risser is not running again, Chris Taylor in the Assembly. And today we learned that the Senate Democratic leader, Jennifer Schilling of La Crosse, is also not seeking re-election, which pretty big surprise, I think, to all of us. So, you know, watching to see, are there more surprise retirements coming our way, and who's going to get in the races for all these seats?
Always tough to lose your leader in an election year, and the Republicans, if Scott Fitzgerald is successful in his run for Congress, they're going to have a new leader too. So, yes, everything will look completely different next spring. When they get back together, the new legislature gets back together, there'll be new leaders in the Senate for both the Republicans and the Democrats. But you mentioned you were also talking about the Marquette poll. Interesting results.
Yeah, interesting results. Joe Biden taking a pretty sizable lead over Bernie Sanders for really the first time in this measurement, and showing that I think, you know, the rest of the state, all of Wisconsin, is kind of following the rest of the nation and seeing that support consolidate behind Biden. But both campaigns are still working pretty actively. Neither one of them seems to be giving up the fight here in Wisconsin. So, you know, be curious to see what they continue to do. Yeah.
This is a state that Sanders won by 13 points 4 years ago, and he was leading in all the polls.
That's right.
And he has people on the ground here. Biden does not. Biden doesn't have an operation really here. And for them, for the people polled to say enough, the primary is over. Bernie still hasn't gotten that message, though. He still thinks there's hope. All right. So what I'm watching out for is how Wisconsinites judge the leaders in handling this coronavirus crisis. Also in the Marquette poll this week, we found that Wisconsinites believe that Tony Evers is handling this much better, or at least more people think he's doing a better job. You can see here Evers' approval rating on dealing with the coronavirus question only. 76% approve as opposed to Trump's 51%. So we will see if those numbers hold. Maybe having an election might see Governor Evers' numbers dip on that a little bit. But I'm interested to see, obviously, the first concern is people's health and getting over this and getting on the outside of this. But there is a real opportunity for governors across the country, including our governor, to show leadership and trust and empathy. And I would just encourage our governor, even though he's got great numbers now on this issue, to watch the press conferences of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo on a loop, and maybe something will rub off, because the way he takes command and sticks to the facts, I think Cuomo and DeWine, the Republican governor of Ohio, have by far led the nation in how to deal with this.
I agree completely.
Well,
the two of them, it's comforting.
It is, and that's part of the job. We got another one of these social distancing episodes through the books and in the books, and I appreciate
We're making it happen.
I appreciate you taking the time there in Dane County to talk to me here in Waukesha County. This is a unique show. It's turning out to be a little bit different than what we thought when we first launched this, because everything's a little bit different right now. Everything's a lot different. But, you know, a millennial, a Gen Xer, a married guy with 2 kids, a single young professional woman, a journalist, an activist. We bring different perspectives here, but the one thing we do have is respect for each other, for the process, and for the battleground that is Wisconsin. So, Jessie, it's great to talk to you again.
It's great talking to you too, Brian.
And we'll see you next week, okay? For Jessie Opoien, I'm Brian Fraley. This has been Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien.